Welcome to Oyate Today. Oyate in Lakota means people. Oyate Today is sponsored by Security First Bank, your financial partner since 1898. Security First Bank, a relationship you can count on. Member FDIC. Hi, welcome to Oyate Today. I'm your host, Richie Richards. Oyate Today is produced by Tim and Jackie Gallego. Tim is an enrolled member of the Oglala Sioux tribe. Our guest tonight is Oglala Sioux tribal member Rex Herman. Thank you so much for being here tonight, Rex. I appreciate you coming here and being on our show.
Appreciate it.
And if you could tell us a little bit about yourself. I know that as part of the show we want to have a way of honoring our elders and listening to their stories. So please tell us a little bit about yourself and where you grew up, sir.
Okay. I was born in 1932, and my first 10 years was spent in the bombing area right south of Interior until I was 10 years old in 1942 when the World War II broke out, and they took our land. The War Department took our land from 85 families in that general area south of Interior. They were bombing range, and everybody scattered to different parts of the reservation to relocate. My family went from by the Interior up to Kyle area to the No Flesh Creek south of Kyle. Mm-hmm. And the War Department came to my parents' home and told them we had 10 days to move. They were going to start bombing. So everybody scattered to the different parts of the reservation. And my parents went with their meager house belongings and a homemade hay rack. We had a few cattle, a few horses, and my older brother, Jake Herman Jr., and Paul Herman, my brother, and my sister Faith rode with my parents in the hay rack, and we moved from that bombing range up to No Flesh. Mm-hmm. Okay, we spent one night along the creek there, and we had a few head of cattle and horses, and we had pours to the poor. We rode horseback, bareback, and homemade bridles. We had saddles and stuff. Yeah. And so we moved, and we moved along the creek in the No Flesh area on the black chicken allotment, which later on my dad and mother bought that half section of land there from the black chickens, and we lived along the creek there from August or July or August, I forget exactly what month, until the following November. And my dad built a log house, and then we moved in there. But during that time, before I went back, I was sent back to Holy Rosary, to school, Holy Rosary, mm-hmm. in grade school. And I went to school there during the war years. And then I guess I ran away and I went back to No Flesh, and I started school at Kyle, day school, mm-hmm. rode the bus from home. But, and then my time at Holy Rosary, was pretty nice. I mean, I was lonely, but my older brother Jake always took care of me at Holy Rosary, looked after me. That's my older brother.
Now, just so I'm clear about that, you went to Holy Rosary at the age of 5 years old.
Right, that was in 1932, 37, mm-hmm. and I stayed there till 42. Mm-hmm. And then from 42, I ran away and went back to Kyle. Then I started school at Kyle Day School, and I stayed there during the war years. Mm-hmm. And I think it was back in 47 that I went back to Holy Rosary. Spent 1 year in 9th grade, and then I quit and stayed out 1 year, and then I joined the Marines.
Let's talk a little bit about your time at Holy Rosary then. We always hear so much about the bad experiences or some of those bad things that happened in the Indian missions or during the boarding school days, but not all of those were bad experiences for you then. I'm sure you had some.
Well, there was some, but I like to remember the good parts of it, because mm-hmm. everybody went through probably what I did there, the punishment and through the demerit system, missing school or missing movies, and our food wasn't the best food. We always, for breakfast, ate mush. That's why they called us the mush eaters from Holy Oglala. The government school called us Holy Rosary students mush eaters. We called them gravy eaters.
The gravy eaters and the mush eaters from Holy Rosary, yeah.
And so, but good part of it I remember was the basketball, playing on a B team. I went to school, played with some of the, remember your dad, Richard Dix, and Booper Morrison, Louis Herman horses, Gary Adams, Wally Barrow, I can't remember some of the other names. Some of the names, Thomas Compass is another one, but that's some of the guys I played with there.
So was you a good basketball player then?
Me?
Yeah.
I thought I was, but maybe I was the only one thought I was.
Yeah.
Oh no, Richard Dix was probably our star. He was a real good ball player, exceptionally good.
Yeah.
And then during the time there, I became friends with Timothy Redwolf. Tim was older than me, but he was one of the greatest, best athletes ever came out of Holy Rosary. And he was an outstanding basketball player. He and John Sears and Leo Gibbons and Marvin Tuttle, Squash Koloff, and Willard Cooney, and I think Bozo Richards and Mouse Morgan, Kenny Morgan. They were on the A team. I think that's the last year they won a state championship, the Catholic state championship in Mitchell, the Corn Palace.
Wow,
The
good
coach,
years.
Bob Clifford, at that time was their coach.
Yeah, good years.
And so,
I know earlier you talked about the bombing range. I just wanted to kind of give a little bit more perspective into your experience with that, because you'd mentioned it kind of quickly, but I understand that at the age of 10 years old, the bombing had started. The government had come to you, your family, and said you have 10 days to move out, otherwise we're going to start bombing. So you
we'll
gathered.
start bombing.
Yep,
Right.
your family gathered up the few head of cattle, the horses, and you
And
left.
my dad left a good corn crop, a real good, had to give that up, and later on ranchers, before they could harvest anything, go back, ranchers' cattle just went in there and tore everything apart there.
Just ate it all up.
Ate it all up. At
Yeah.
that time, my mom had a allotment of 160 acres, and I think she was paid $300 for that 160 acres of land.
And so that was just bought outright then, and
Well, that's what they gave them later. I mean, she got $300 for that 160 acres of land. But I guess $300 was quite a bit of money at that time, the way the money situation was compared to today. You know?
today, yeah.
But that still wasn't a lot of money, you know.
And then, so just from my understanding, then is, say you left, you moved into a tent, you took temporary shelter elsewhere. Your father built a log cabin, and
We swam in the creek, and my mom cooked outside, and with rainstorms, we got soaking wet, and it wasn't the greatest thing living in a little tent. All of us slept in the tent.
Yeah.
But what I want to say is my older brother, see, that was 42. 2 years later, he went in the military. My older son, he was in the 82nd Airborne, and he was, when the U.S. landed and liberated Holland, he was killed in Holland 9 days after his 19th birthday.
Wow.
And he's still buried over there in that
Wow.
Nijmegen Cemetery, the Netherlands. And my mother didn't have him return his body because she said he died with his friends, so let him stay there. But I have pictures of it. It's a beautiful, beautiful cemetery.
I bet.
One of the best military cemeteries overseas. You know, it's really thousands and thousands of white crosses were.
And so your mom did an honorable thing then by keeping him with his group of friends and his,
I tried to bring his body back to be reburied at our cemetery in Kyle, but after 1949 they passed a law you couldn't bring back military people to this country. And up until then they were allowing it. They wanted to contact my mother and wanted to know if she wanted to bring his body back, and she said no, because she said that. And he laid in an unmarked grave for 5 years until they found his body. And they was buried all over in the town of Nijmegen. At that time, she said they were sending anybody's body in back. So she probably done the right thing, you know.
maybe, yeah, definitely. Mr. Herman, we're going to take a break, but when we get back, let's learn a little bit more about your life. I've been really enjoying this conversation so far. So we'll be back after a word from our sponsors.
You can't predict life's ups and downs, You just give it all you've got to stay on top. But it's easier with a partner like Security First Bank. Since 1898, we've been riding with you through the country's biggest ups and downs. And this is where we'll stay. Security First Bank, a relationship you can count on. Member FDIC.
Our school has great students and dedicated teachers, but we need our community volunteers to help us to provide a broader view of the many ways a good education can point to a bright future.
Did someone say volunteer? Our team at Black Hills is here to help. In fact, we sponsor events and projects, and our employees volunteer for organizations throughout the Black Hills, including partnering with schools to help students learn more about life outside the classroom. Extracurricular, extra fun.
Native Sun News has been voted the best weekly newspaper in its class for 2015 by the South Dakota and North Dakota Newspaper Associations. You can find a copy of the Native Sun News at many businesses and vending machines in Rapid City and the surrounding area, and on all 9 reservations. We publish every Wednesday, so advertisers and subscribers can reach our diverse readership by calling 605-721-1266. The Native Sun News covers the other side of the story.
More than 2 million men and women have served in our military since 9/11. Now, many of them are transitioning back into civilian life. They're considering career options, writing resumes, starting businesses. ACP AdvisorNet can help. ACP AdvisorNet is a nonprofit online community where Americans can offer career advice to those who have served. Now we can serve those who served us by helping them to find their next career. Visit acpadvisornet.org.
Hi, welcome back to Oyate Today. Once again, our guest tonight is Mr. Rex Herman of the Oglala Sioux tribe. And we're just kind of giving some perspective from a native elders or native elders from Pine Ridge, and we just wanted to kind of hear these stories and listen to these stories. Some of them are some war stories from the Korean War. We also have stories from the Holy Rosary Indian Mission, and I just want to thank you for coming on tonight, sir.
Thank you.
Now, before you mentioned that you ran away from Holy Rosary, and at what age did you do that, and why did you make that choice?
I was 10 years old and I ran away. I ran away with Harlan Babe Hunter. He and I, we made ourselves bean sandwiches.
Bean sandwiches? Yeah.
Yeah. And probably an hour out of Holy Rosary, we went to the east. Going to Manderson, we ate our sandwich up and didn't eat for a couple of days. Spent the time with some relatives in Manderson, was picked up later by my uncle, and then was taken home to Kyle. And thereafter is when I intended to start going to school at Little One Day School.
How long did your runaway experience then? How long was that period when you ran away and made it home?
Oh, probably a day and a half,
Day and
something
a half.
like that, yeah.
That's pretty good. Off of a bean sandwich.
Yeah. 10 years old, you know,
Yeah.
those young guys.
Wow.
But I guess we had that gooseneck, that's what they call that old road from Holy Rosary to Manderson.
So-
I don't even know if there's a gooseneck road today, if
Yeah.
it's still going.
So why did you run away? What made you run away?
Loneliness.
Loneliness?
Yeah. I think Howard Hunter, they talked me into it. He said, let's run away. He said, I never thought of it. It was his idea. So I said, yeah, okay, let's go.
Yeah, it sounded like the good thing to do at the time. Yeah. And so then you went to the Kyle Day School. What was that experience like?
Oh, it was different. It was kind of like, okay, now I lost track here. But going to school there, we had white teachers, you know, Mr. Uglum and Mrs. Eagletail. I'm a Jean Eagletail, yeah. I remember some of the teachers there. And it was pretty nice, different, you know. Rode the bus. I rode the bus daily, my sister and I, Faith, and rode the bus and went to school there. And then I went back after graduating 8th grade at Kyle, I went back to Holy Rosary and spent one more year at Holy Rosary as a 9th grade, and then I walked off again and went home. By that time, I guess I thought knew more than the teachers did, so.
And then soon after you joined the Marines.
Yeah, well, about a year later, I joined the Marines in the early 50s. And then I went to Korea, and it was pretty cold there. I mean, the Chinese entered the war after decimating. We decimated the North Korean army, and the Chinese stepped in, and it was bitter cold and had to fight our way out. And this country gave up on it. Said the army and the Marine Corps was trapped, and they probably wouldn't survive, you know. And even the president, the papers were saying that, pray for fathers and sons and brothers and that, because they probably never make it. They're supposed to die. The whole military force was supposed to get annihilated.
So you were talking about the country of the United States, like there's a feeling
Well,
for
yeah.
you.
Well,
that
made that landing in Incheon, and then retook Seoul and went up north. And MacArthur wanted to go all the way to the Yalu River and destroy the military. The North Korean army, they abandoned everything and went back into their country. So MacArthur wanted to go in there and destroy the army and take over the North Korean. And so they could get to Korea and South and North Korea together. And during that time, the Chinese entered the war. And they come by thousands and thousands of them. And that's when the Marine Corps and the Army got killed. During that time, Darrell Codier was killed from Pine Ridge, was killed in the Army. There was Alfred Underbaggage, Peter Bald Eagle, that was killed in Army units. They was on the east side in the military, there was 2,500 of them. But it was really, really cold on the way coming out of there. And they said the temperatures, that severe weather come out of Manchuria, and it was like 30 to 50 below zero weather at time.
Wow.
And everybody had frozen feet. I had, my feet were frostbitten, and my toes are all crooked from that. But about everybody had frozen feet and hands and all that. And then when the North Koreans were giving up, some of them, after a few days of that, you know, they had no food and all that. But later on, we did get out of there. Thank God for that, but at a high cost of living. But they said there was 200,000 Chinese that came in there. But I think there was 60,000 of them they lost, the Korean, but killed by the Marine Corps and the Army. And the Army unit was really, really bad. They got really tore up bad, you know. And in that group, I think it was Bad Boy Janice that was in that Army group that came out with the Marine Corps. Some of them went across the river and joined the Marines to come out because they got overrun, the Army, that poor group of people.
Yeah.
And so we got out of there anyway, but it was bitter cold.
Yeah.
And some of the North Korean people, I think they said 90,000 of them that came in and came out, you know, followed the Marines, because the Chinese took over their food and the bombs from the U.S. and all that.
Probably their shelters and everything else, yeah.
So we did get out of there, and then sent some of us to Japan for what's called, that some of us had to go back to Korea again after that. And then I got wounded in that, the last part of it there at that time.
Yeah, because
so I got the second time in Korea.
Yeah.
And so.
You have a Purple Heart?
Yes, sir. And I have 2 Bronze Stars, I guess, in my military record.
Sure. Well, thank you for your service. I appreciate that. And what you're telling us about then is really how these your friends from Pine Ridge, from the Pine Ridge Sioux tribe down there, how they were over there as well, either in the Marines or in the Army then. And
well, I'd like to, Charlie Underbags and his wife, who's a relative of my dad, through their grandmothers, Charlie lost a son in World War II, like my brother was killed in Holland, 9 days after his 19th birthday. And Charlie lost an older son, Charles Jr., he was killed. Then in the Korean War, he lost another son, Alfred, that was killed. And so the underbaggage, you know.
They suffered.
They suffered, the family.
Mr. Herman, I'm going to take a break, but when we get back, let's learn a little bit some other parts of your life, and I want to learn about how you had gotten in return back to the bombing range area.
Okay.
Okay, so I appreciate your service. I appreciate everything you did for our country.
Thank you, sir.
And I want to take a break, and when we get back, we'll learn a little bit more about Rex Herman and his life. Thank you so much, sir.
Look into my eyes, you will see what you mean to me. Don't tell me it's not worth trying for. You know it's true. Everything I do it for you. You know it's true. Everything I do it for you.
I used to think news is news. It's all the same. But it's not. There's a big difference between local broadcast news and cable news. See, local stations are part of my community, connecting me to local news, weather, and sports on every device. It makes sense. Get the news from the people I trust who actually live here. No agenda, no bias like on cable shout shows or social media, just facts. For news I can trust, I stay local. Support your local stations. Text TV to 52886 today.
Every day, 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 every day.
Hi, welcome back to Oyate Today. Once again, our guest tonight is Rex Herman. Thank you so much for being here, sir, and thank you for sharing those stories. I know that that's been some tough times for you, but I'm glad you survived, and I'm glad you're here to be with us tonight. So once again, thank you so much. Now, in the segment before, we talked a little bit about you and your family being moved from your home there in the bombing range, just east and south of here in Rapid City. But could you talk about how your family was able to go back after this bombing range period when you guys were kind of expelled from your land, but could you talk a little bit about that?
When they went back to the
Yep.
bombing range?
Yep.
Well, they never did go back there, really. I mean, the government owned the land, and so they paid for it, so they were the owner of the land. So my brother did go back later on in a wagon and got my mother's metal stove and loaded it by himself and team a wagon from Kyle down the bombing range, just about 35 miles. And how he loaded that thing by himself down there, I don't know. And he was like 18 years old, hitched up a team. But I'm wondering how many young kids today
Can do that same
could
thing.
do that. Kind of like that you grew up fast in those days, Everybody contributed to raising gardening, whatever, because there was no jobs or anything, so they contributed something to eat. Mm-hmm. But you had to learn to work, and contribute to family. So,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, I'm through with that part of it. But
Yeah. No. So I understand your dad was a rodeo clown. Then.
oh yeah. When we were younger, my dad traveled with a carnival back east. He as a rodeo clown, he used to clown in Deadwood. They called the Days of '76 in Belle Fourche, which was big time rodeos in White River and different rodeos. And he was a rodeo clown. Early days he rode saddle bronc and rode bulls and that. And then he became a rodeo clown and fought bulls and clown, a clown act.
Yeah.
In front of the crowds in the grandstand, he had a trick mule he called Creepin' Jenny, and a trick dog he trained named Tag, and he had a skunk that he cut the stink bag out of, and he had that skunk.
Wow.
And he had a act where he would suck the insides of a poke a hole in the raw egg and suck that inside of that egg out and throw it into the stands to scare the people. One of his friends was drinking and was supposed to do that, and he didn't get all that. What's called? He threw a live egg and hit a lady in the eye and broke her glasses.
Whoops.
But I don't know, today that'd be a huge lawsuit over that, but I guess it was funny in those days, you know, there's no the big lawsuits like they have for a little thing today, but I have pictures of that, the old-time cowboys, everybody grew big cowboys and cowgirls, wore big hats and real beautiful horses in those days, you know.
Yeah, it was like a real show to...
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was in White River, Burwell, Nebraska. But my dad traveled with that carnival, and we traveled in Michigan and Iowa and all over. He had and his trick dog, Kyle, we was on our way back from, I think, Michigan somewhere in Nebraska. My dad had that mule and that dog in his cage alongside pulling on a wagon, a trailer, and that dog got out and disappeared, his trick dog tag, and that dog went, that was 200 and I think like 40 miles away from in Nebraska back to the bombing range, and that dog found his way back to the home and the bombing range. He traveled all that way.
Wow.
Not 240 miles away. That's kind of unbelievable story, but that's the honest truth. That actually happened. That dog, bottom of his feet was all raw, and you know, he's really pitiful look. But he sensed a way to get back somehow.
He knew where home was.
And he walked in and one day at the house.
And he was there.
Yeah,
Wow.
he came in.
It's a pretty amazing story.
Yeah, but my dad clowned in all in different places. We used to camp. They didn't have motels, and when we went, we had a tent and camped alongside of the rodeo grounds, and my dad with his mule and stuff, you know, at different rodeos in the area. My mother cooked outside and that. But he made pretty good money because the jobs were real scarce in those days. But my dad would kind of been around the country. He went to Rapid City Indian School up here. Both my mother and dad attended Rapid City Indian School, their first schooling years. And then from there, my dad he was an orphan, so he went on to Carlisle Indian School.
Wow.
And played football and basketball for Carlisle.
Oh, wow. Mr. Herman, I want to thank you for your time tonight. That's been some great storytelling, and you've lived a great life. So I want to thank you for your service. You know, I want to thank you for coming on our show tonight and just sharing your stories. You know, I want to thank our producers. I want to thank our sponsors. I want to thank Prairie Edge for hosting our show tonight. And I want to thank you for making Oyate Today a part of your night. You've been watching Oyate Today, brought to you by Security First Bank.